What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Texas League Weekly Video Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dwayne. My background brings much shame to me and my people, Morrow, along with our co-host, Robert, Dr. Deuce Caldwell. I'm not going to disparage him this week because he got the best of me twice over this weekend. So really three times over the weekend.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to disparage him this week. I will save it. And Jared Goose Egg Cowan, and you'll see why we call him that a little bit later on in today's podcast.
Tread lightly, gentlemen. Tread lightly.
Oh, don't get it twisted. Just because we're going to be taking shots at each other from our post rivalry week matchup does not mean that we've forgotten about you, sir. Because we have not.
Hey.
With that being said, let's jump right into it. Deuce, you seem to be kind of riding a high wave this week of good vibes and fantasy football success. Who do you give your first quarter gold star to in terms of fantasy players this season?
Well, I wish we could do individual fantasy points for players on defense. Because Khalil Mack, who I distinctly remember somebody saying last week, nah, he done. When he was with this one team in silver and black, he was already doing blah, 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 blah. And I distinctly fought back saying, like, nah, he played his old team. He coming correct playing against a rookie quarterback. I only said he'd get 3 sacks. I didn't know he'd double it. So if I like how Jerry's drinking his water. But if I could give a gold star to a defensive player, it'd have to be Khalil Mack of the former bootleg ass Raiders. So that's why I give my gold star.
I'm going to give one simple rebuttal in my defense.
Okay.
You said he would be playing with animosity towards his own team. My only point was that I didn't think he would have this kind of impact. Khalil Mack is who he is, and he has not been doing very well this season. So I did say I did not think he was going to have this kind of impact. But I just said there was not going to be any hatred towards his own team because of the way he departed. That's all I was saying. Six sacks, get that man. Get that man. I respect it. Give it to him. Jerry, how about you? Who gets your first quarter gold star in fantasy football?
I just want to make a comment. I think 6 sacks is a little hatred. Just want to know
that. Because he only has 6 sacks on the season right now. All against your team.
It might be a little hatred.
He'll finish the season with 7.
No, he'll get another 6 when he plays y'all again. He'll finish with 12.
If I have to go out there and block him myself the next time we play the Chargers, he will not get 6 sacks the next time we play. If I have to go get on the practice squad and injure some people to get on the field for that game.
Oh, Jesus.
Not the practice squad player. Yeah, anyway, moving on. I'm giving my first quarter gold star, similar to Mr. Caldwell. I'm giving mine to the Dallas Cowboys defense. They have cost me 2 fantasy matchups this season already. Normally, a defense is not that, but week 1 they cost me a matchup in my work league, and this past week their performance, or should I say, the abysmal performance by one Mac Jones. I was going to use the government name. He's not even worthy of it. And all the points he gave to them with his performance caused me to lose a matchup this week.
That's so funny. I didn't know that boy's name wasn't actually Mac Jones. So you live it there.
I looked it up. It is Michael McCorkle Jones.
Yeah, he should go by Mac. He should definitely go by Mac. He should 100% go by Mac. Speaking of Max, I'm going to give mine to a resurgent Run CMC who is scoring in California like he used to when he was at Stanford. He has been a workhorse for the undefeated 49ers. It's very easy to see why they are a Super Bowl contender.
Workhorse for Chris.
Yeah. So for fantasy owners who were lucky enough to magically end up with him spectacular way, and who have now kept him in legacy for a couple of years. He has been a great find. So on the other side of that, who's been your most disappointing fantasy player of the first quarter, Jared?
Somebody who I did not have the luxury of keeping. Joe Burrow. That boy has been trash. I almost said Daniel Jones, but I expect more out of Joe Burrow, so I'm going with Joe Burrow.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What about you, Deuce?
Dalvin Cook.
Oh, so do you think Cook should have? Do you? I know we don't like.
He should have stayed in Minnesota. He should have stayed in Minnesota.
I don't think that was an option. I
wasn't.
I don't think it was his choice to leave, much like it wasn't Zeke Elliott's choice to leave the Cowboys. But if Aaron Rodgers, I know this is a big if Aaron Rodgers was healthy, do you think Dalvin Cook would be more of a contributor in fantasy this year?
It's hard to say because they got Hall as well, so it's hard to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, he probably would be, because I think he would rely on Dalvin Cook more, but he'd have Hall as an offset back. So I mean, yeah, he probably would be. I'd like to think he would do better with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, yeah, I'm just gonna say yes.
I would have loved to seen healthy Aaron Rodgers and just saw if they were going to try some of those two back sets with both Cook and Hall in the game at times, just to make literally every position on the field besides the lineman a weapon. It would have been interesting. So, indeed. Man, who do I give my most disappointing fantasy player the first quarter to this season? I'm going to give it to somebody who actually hasn't even stepped on the field yet this season. Terry, extremely disappointed in you, son. You had a bad fantasy season last year. And Jonathan, you're finally back in practice this week, but your ass needs to get on the field for all of us fantasy owners who've been holding on, okay? who every week we keep hearing that song in the back of our minds, I'll keep holding on. So we've been holding on to you. Week 6 is coming up. Like, you're not going to be traded. You don't want to lose a service year. So we know that your season debut is coming soon. And I just hope that it's not too late for all of us fantasy owners to try to make a playoff push with your funky ass. Okay. That being said, let's talk about something real quick that personally, and it's not just because I lost a fantasy game because of this bullshit, although that played into the reason why this question popped into my mind. I have a question. Why in the modern game do we see so many coaches eschewing a field goal opportunity in range to go for it on 4th and 1? Why do you guys think that is?
Stupidity.
Analytics.
Okay, good. So, two different perspectives, okay? The mathematician, the former player. One of you go first and you tell me why you think coaches are making this decision.
Calvin, let me go first real quick. So, the reason why I say analytics is because since AWS has gone freaking mainstream, everybody using analytics to make their decisions for them because they feel it keeps them out of the hot seat. They're like, well, I might not have gone over it, but all the numbers said I should go for this. So to save my job, I'm going to do what the numbers are telling me I should probably do. Case in point, fucking Staley with the damn Chargers. That punk damn son of a bitch. Going for it on 4th and 1 and getting stopped. You go, well, analytics said I should have went for it. Nah, fool, you on the damn 30, the wrong 30. Why the hell you going to go for it? I'm like, he's trying to make us lose games. I'm just saying. So, but I think a lot of coaches are favorite. And as a mathematician, I'm all about analytics. However, I'm all about logic as well. So, like Calvin's point, stupidity is absolute stupidity. But I get the logistics. Damn, my iPad keep falling. I get the logistics in it, though.
All right. Jared, what do you say?
My answer of stupidity is somewhat based off of what he said. People are using analytics and not using common sense. My motto is always take the points. But like you said, people want to use analytics trying to, oh, well, the analytics said, no. Common sense says kick the field goal, take the points. My personal opinion, take the points. Because at the end of the day, if you miss the field goal, well, then you went for it. Ain't nobody gonna be like, well, he went to the field goal and missed it. But people are gonna talk about you real stupid if you go for it on fourth and don't get it.
Had Seattle kicked the field goal, I lose Dwayne. Hands down. I lose.
This is true.
This is very true. So here's where I understand both perspectives, right? Like, there's a time for you to do certain things. Like, let's take one of the players that I hate but respect. When Tom Brady was with the Patriots, Bill Belichick was known for going for it on 4th and 1 with Brady. Brady, and it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, chicken or the egg situation, right? Were the Patriots always going for it on 4th and 1 because Brady was so successful, or did they become successful at 4th and 1 because Brady exuded that confidence in his team? Like, hey, look, let's just go get this yard, keep this drive going, right? But Belichick to do that shit no more. Not with Mac Jones. You don't see that no more. The only other teams you see going forward on 4th and 1 now are like the Eagles or the Bills or like the Dolphins, right? But all three of those teams have instances this season where they were in field goal range, went forward on 4th and 1, got stopped. Now it's only bitten the Eagles in the butt once, where they ended up getting forced into overtime by a game that they were winning easily, that they came back and won in overtime. But the Dolphins had an entire shift in momentum off of a failed 4th and 1 in the game that was competitive, that ended up getting out of hand against Buffalo. In the Seattle game, it really didn't make sense to me, because if you are already beating an opponent down, every additional point you put on the board is a bigger cushion of your victory. Going for it and not getting it keeps that team in the game. Now, it just so happened that the Giants were so cosmically awful on Monday night that it really didn't matter in the end. But a better team could have taken advantage of that. And I think that, and especially Pete Carroll, Jesus Christ, Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll still has not learned anything since that damn Super Bowl about analytics versus, you've been around football for 50 years, Pete. You know what to do in these situations, man. There's not a scenario on that analytic sheet that Pete Carroll has not seen. There's just not. 4th and 1, opponent's 21, third quarter, 6 minutes left. He's had that 50 times in his career. Stop letting the machines outweigh your football brain. Like, information is good, but at the end of the day, it's just a tool. You cannot let it overrule the purpose of the game. And the goal of the game is to score one more point than the other team to walk away with the W. Passing up a chance to put additional points or to close the gap in points makes no sense to me. So that's my 2 cents. With that being said, we also had a first in this week in our picks as hosts. One of our hosts went 0-6. Jared, how does it feel to achieve that milestone?
You know, I went 0-6. It is what it is. You know, I listened to Robert Caldwell and benched Justin Fields. If I don't bench Justin Fields, I win that matchup, and I don't go 0-6. If Pete Carroll kicks the field goal, you win the matchup. I don't go 0-6.
Right.
But you know, it is what it is.
You know what? I figured it had to. I actually had, if I would have had to be an odds maker and guess, is one of us going to go 0-6 before somebody goes 6-0? I definitely would have put the odds on one of us going 6-0 before somebody went 0-6. because we generally know what we're talking about and we have pretty good
Mhm.
skills. But you were not the only person that had some challenges over this weekend.
I will say this: if you look at the matchups, every one of them is just one deciding factor. Cowboys defense in my matchup. Pete Carroll not kicking that field goal. Christian McCaffrey. Every matchup, just that one thing. Just it is what it is. I went 0-6. I'll live.
Dr. Deuce. We had
Yes, sir.
we had two bets going on the games this weekend. Not only were we playing each other, our favorite teams, the Chargers and the Raiders, also faced off. So we placed two bets, one on our fantasy matchup, one on the real life matchup. As you can see from my background, I lost our fantasy matchup, which makes me, I'm sorry, this background means that the Chargers beat the Raiders. In our fantasy matchup, our Twitter Abby for the other team's logo was on the line. And thank you, FMP Carroll, for your analytical brain put me in this horrible position. So
No, you know who you can blame? You know who gonna blame? We gonna blame Mac Jones this week. Because now follow me. If Mac Jones does not piss down his leg like a scared kid at Halloween, Tony Pollard is gonna have more than 7.5 points because the Cowboys are gonna have to actually put some offensive points on the board.
there's a lot of things. If Musgrave doesn't get injured on his only catch of the game, that's a potential for some more points. If Pete Carroll doesn't shut DK Metcalf down in the fourth quarter of the Seahawks game for some unknown reason, like I'm looking at him in the fourth quarter and I'm like, wait a minute, Geno Smith went out in the first half
Oh,
and
that's right. Yeah.
he came back into the half. Where's DK? So there was a lot of things that could have and then the only thing that I definitely regret is
I read not putting Ayuk in because I didn't know he was coming back in.
right. So I mean, I don't feel too bad about this loss because this game was so close, it literally could have gone either way. Um, I definitely wish I would have been on the other end of the victory, but
Of course.
it's like that sometimes, tough loss, but we move on to
But
the
for the
next
record, I did say Thielen would do something against Minnesota, his old
he
team.
did.
I said Khalil Mack would do something against his old team, the Raiders. So I'm just letting you know that I'm not just all about analytics. I do believe in logic as well. And your team trash. All right, go ahead.
Oh, I can't wait for the rematch. Oh, I can't wait for the rematch. So, in the second matchup that involved our third co-host, we had Stairway to Evans versus Big Green. Now, Big Green, both former champions, Stairway to Evans, undefeated going into that game. Jared thought he had an edge because someone's manager or support system was out for the week. And for a while there, thought it would go well. But the problem was the Packers decided not to show up Thursday night, and basically it went downhill from there. We're not going to try to do too much analysis on this, except to point out the fact that for the second week in a row, one of us was the second highest scorer in the league and lost their game because they played the highest scoring person in the league. So
I moved up in the rankings by losing because I scored so many points.
ain't that crazy? That is crazy. But shout out to the Big Green who remains undefeated going into week 5. So we shall see. Ladies, this is a reminder. Fantasy football is a genderless sport. You can do it. So now we look at our other matchup with our previously other undefeated remaining team in the league, which is Kirkwood. Kirkwood's the current defending champion, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Kirkwood's our current defending champion. He was sitting at 3-0, 2 moves, 2 balls, 1 goal. Was one of 2 teams still winless, and Break it down for us, Jared. What's going on with Chuck and Melanie, man?
Oh, they team actually produced. Look, Josh Allen, 44 points. AJ Brown, 36 points. But just wait, here comes Christian McCaffrey for 45. And Kyrie Williams for 26. His running back said, "Don't worry, I got this." And then Nico Collins, Chris at the game as a Steelers fan, watching Nico Collins torch his secondary, but give his fantasy team all the points they need.
It's such a gift and curse moment when you have a team that is killing your real life favorite team, but helping your fantasy team with every catch. And the even crazier part is he got 0 points from the Steelers defense, which against the Texans is an extremely surprising number of points for that matchup. But I mean, again, Chuck and Melody, 125, like that's
I mean, other top 3 people beats you and me hands down. Doing that's crazy.
Oh yeah, I mean, they
beats our whole squad
with ease, right? You know, so that's why sometimes you just catch a person at the wrong week and you really can't do nothing about it. But unfortunately for Chuck and Melanie, they are still winless. And I don't know. Maybe one more week and they might want to start entertaining some trades and start, you know, going for the number 1 overall pick next year. Sweepstakes. Maybe they want to do a fire sale. We'll find out. So next matchup had a 0-3 Muff Divers versus a 1-2 Armed Rodri. Armed Rodri looking to stop a skid. Muff Divers looking to get in the W column. And what we finally got this week is the Lamar Jackson we've actually been looking for this season. So Lamar Jackson had a strong outing last week with 26 points, finally cracked 30 points on the year and bounced back, and the Ravens bounced back from a heartbreaking loss. Like the Ravens should really be 4-0 if it wasn't for like a swallow the whistle moment against the Indianapolis Colts. They would be 4-0 at this moment. But anyway, Lamar, 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. Don't think he's going to get to that 6,000 yards passing he promised us this year with less than 200. But you know what? As long as he's scoring fantasy points and his team is winning, he won't care. Jacksonville, all upside Atlanta's head in London. Ingram almost cracking double digits, so he's still producing there. Chris Olave has basically no fantasy impact right now. Don't know whether it's Carr or Winston. He's just not doing anything to help anyone. Minnesota's defense, surprisingly, with 19 points. Like that game was Minnesota started that game off real slow. Carolina, I don't know, they got a little bit of a lead and then just took their foot off, but Minnesota bouncing back to get that victory, and then their defense really stepping up, scoring 19. So can't be mad at that at all. So even despite that, Muff Divers gets their first win of the season and gets on the board. All right. Company man and hanging with Hernandez. Deuce, talk to us about this good matchup.
This was interesting. I like the quarterback matchup because you have Mahomes versus Purdy, and Purdy actually outscored Mahomes. But what helped him out was freaking Miami's running back getting him 25 points with those 2 touchdowns and 100 yards. And so that literally was the difference right there for Company Man to win because he doubled Houston's running back score and then some. And so when Mike Evans only got 5 points, that kind of surprised me a little bit. Mike Evans is usually good for at least 10. That would have helped a little bit, but he was just outdone by all these running backs.
And I'm like, again, I know Shane is a good running back. I don't know, man. Mostert better start watching his food, having somebody taste his food because he's definitely got an heir apparent sitting behind him. And we know running backs, they do not last long, and there's zero loyalty for them. So if the younger, faster thing comes along and is much cheaper and can do what you do, you better watch your back. Watch that trade because it may happen for you. But shout out to Company Man getting back in the W column this week. And then our last matchup of week 4, we had the homie No Shirt Mook versus Cuzzo. And this game was interesting from the fact that we thought it was going to be close and turned out not to be. Jared.
Daniel Jones and his crew giving up 11 sacks and that abysmal 3-point performance and some touchdowns. He told Mac Jones, hold my glass. I'm going to show my ass for not a good thing. And that was horrible. Dallas defense had 28 points. Seattle got 31. Both of them were just abysmal. That 31 points was just it. That and Stephon Diggs accounted for 66 points. That's wow. You scored 66 points with 2 people. It don't matter that the tight end had 2. Raheem Mostert had 4 because he fumbled it. Swift had a decent game. Chase actually broke double digits, even though Joe Burrow is still hot poo-poo. Basura Caliente for all the people that speak Spanish. And Dak with his 14 points because the defense kept scoring. Right. And my cousin didn't have the Herbert Allen blow up that he's been getting the last couple of weeks, and team wasn't able to get it done.
Right. So that 32 yards receiving, like I think 23 of that was on the touchdown catch. So we actually did a decent job of keeping Keenan Allen in check. So don't make me get started because I'll take up this whole podcast cussing out Josh McDaniels and whoever that statistician is that makes his play calling decisions. This is the third 1-score game we've lost. I'm sorry, the second 1-score game we've lost. So, I ain't happy with that.
At least you beat the Broncos. That's all I got.
Bruh.
Sorry.
If we'd have lost to them, he'd be fired.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So, that being said, after week 4, here's where we stand on our picks for the week. Still inexplicable that Deuce is leading the season in correct picks. I'm flabbergasted. And even though I'm making fun of Jared and his 0% correct last week, I was exactly 1 pick away from joining him in that 0%. So thankfully, I picked against him last week. And that was the difference maker between us being in the same position. Actually, that was literally the difference maker between us flip-flopping and this being the week that I lost in fantasy, lost 2 bets, and got 0 picks right. So that is literally the only bright spot I had in fantasy football this weekend is that I got 1 pick right in our weekly picks.
I got 4, so I hear you. I know what you mean.
But hey, it's the small things. I'll take it. All right. So let's jump right into this week's picks because I know that our brother Deuce has to get ready to go do the father thing, and shout out to his son. Which son is playing?
Rowan, my middle son.
Shout out to Rowan for making his debut playing up in a baseball game tonight. We wish him well. We know he's gonna rock it out. So we don't not too much analysis on the teams, but we'll just look at the matchups and go with the picks. All right. Devastator versus Armed Rodgery. 2 teams that desperately need a win to get back on the road to competitiveness. Jared, who do you like? And give us 1 reason why.
Devastator, because his quarterback is not Joe Burrow.
Fair enough.
Yes.
So I also like Devastator. And I'm hoping that he forgets to change our title locket. I know he won't, but hey, it is what it is. I don't know if we lost Brother Caldwell. I think we did, but we'll come back to him when we have chance to. So
Sorry, I'm here. I just turned the car off, so it disconnected from the internet. My
oh
iPad has
no,
its own internet though, so I'm good.
cool. Look at him
Big
brag.
time.
See that's yeah, see how you
Got
do us.
internet in the car. You know what? I'm
Okay.
calling All Star after this. Get this internet on my car.
Devastator or Armed Robbery this week?
Let's see. Oh, damn. Devastator.
Cool. So we have a consensus for this week's first game. Stairway to Evans versus Ed Korn. Co-host versus the shirtless one.
Damn.
Deuce, who do you like in this one?
Dallas versus San Francisco. I think that's going to be a fun game to watch. Houston versus Atlanta. You know what? The hell with it. Stairway to Evans.
Yeah, I'm also gonna go Stairway to Evans. I think Dak Prescott's gonna get a foot up his ass all weekend uh, at the Niners game because the Niners are on a mission and they got something to prove. Atlanta's defense just gave up 1,000 points last week to Sunshine and Gang in London on a shorter week, no rest, still fighting off the bed bugs they picked up at their London hotel as this bed bug infestation sweeps across Europe. Yeah, I'm also gonna go with Stairway to Evans on this matchup.
Yeah. I'm going with myself. I just refuse to vote for anybody else. I can't do it.
I didn't think that will be a game where you picked against yourself. I like your matchup. 2 boobs, 2 balls, 1 goal versus the Big Green. Last winless team versus one of the last 2 undefeated. Jared, you close to these good people. Who you like this week?
I'm going with the team that has yet to lose because their quarterback and their number 1 wide receiver get to play the Giants, and we just saw how they look.
Yeah.
That could get ugly.
Agreed.
Okay. So we again have a consensus. Yeah. The Dolphins are coming off a game where they came out super flat in the second half against the Bills in a Bills game that was competitive until the third quarter when the wheels just fell off. So I think that they're going to really go out and put an ass whooping and a beating on the Giants to get themselves back on track. Yeah. So sorry, Chuck and Melanie. I think you're going to have to roll with that 0-5 one more week. Company Man
Fire
versus
sale.
Super Mario Crystal Ball. Right. Company Man versus Super Mario Crystal Ball. Deuce, who you like?
For this, damn. Company Man.
Yeah. Okay.
For
Jared,
no other reason than just Mahomes against Minnesota.
Right. Right. Jared, who you like?
I'm going with my cousin because he got Sam Howell, who's not a great quarterback, but they play in Chicago. That defense is trash. Not Denver Bronco trash, but it's trash.
Man, if it wasn't a Thursday night game, I would follow your logic. Thursday night games don't produce it. One team always sucks. And in this case, both teams have too much of a high potential to be the team that sucks on Thursday night. So I don't like that. I do not like that matchup. I also had to go with Company Man. So 2 for Company Man, 1 for Super Mario. All right. Other undefeated team in Kirkwood versus I finally got in the W column, Muff Divers. Jared, who you like?
Oh, I'm going with Muff Divers.
Okay.
Just something about the way that Stroud just did that Pittsburgh defense tells me that Lamar Jackson can do the same thing plus some.
And thinking the same thing, honestly. And Hall's going to actually show out against Denver. Watch.
Yep. Don't forget about that. That Denver defense. They let Khalil Herbert score like 20-something points.
Yeah, they really did.
I think Breece Hall can get loose and get him a couple. Yeah. He gonna like Devon Etienne this weekend.
I'm actually gonna pick against you.
I'm gonna have to dip out, so I'll
I
holler
got
at y'all later.
All right, just text us your final pick. Good luck tonight. I'm gonna go with Kirkwood in this game. I like the Jalen Hurts matchup against the Rams. Nico Collins, from what he did last week, I like his matchup against Atlanta. Like you just said, Miami against that Giants defense, Waddle's gonna have some opportunity to get loose. Um, and Aaron Jones against our shaky ass defense on Monday Night Football. Even though Aaron hasn't done anything this season, he'll probably sneak a touchdown in a short yardage situation. So, you know, I like Kirkwood. And so in our final pick of the week, which is an easy one for us to assume which one Math Deuce is going to roll with, Mathis King versus hanging with Hernandez, both of them sitting at 2-2. I cannot believe I have a worse record, not only in picks, but in fantasy than Deuce at this point in the season. Makes me quite sad. Mathis King versus hanging with Hernandez. Who you like, Jared?
Ooh. Let's be honest. I don't think either one of these teams is great. No slight to Dr. Deuce, because I'm also 2-2. But man, this matchup. Neither one of these look real great. But I'm gonna have to give the nod to. I'm giving the nod to hanging with Hernandez because he got Brock Purdy, who I think is going to actually outproduce Trevor Lawrence, and I think in a revenge game, Devontae Adams gives the Green Bay Packers secondary the business. And that will be the slight nod he needs to get to 3-2 over Mathis King.
I agree. Like I already said earlier, I think that the 49ers are going to go roughshod all over Dallas in that Sunday night game. Devontae is going to have a great game against his old team, especially if Jimmy G is back by Monday. Because that's his only target. Like if Jimmy G is back Monday, Adams might go for 200 yards on Monday Night Football. So I do like. I think those are the two difference makers right there. Purdy and Adams give a slight edge to hanging with Hernandez over Mathis King, which I'm pretty sure he would pick with himself. So we have an opportunity for some parity and some movement in the percentages and the rankings as we go into week 5 with our picks. All right, Jared, going into this week's NFL games, which games are you looking forward to this weekend?
Cowboys and 49ers, because, there are some delusional Cowboy fans who swear that their defense is great. Now, they ain't played nobody. So I'm going to need you to prove it. Now, if you can go in here and you can slow down Christian McCaffrey and you can slow down Mr. Irrelevant, then I will say your defense is good as advertised.
Right.
And I'm not going to hold that Arizona game against them. Everybody slips up. I still believe they just overlooked them because they're Arizona. And we all know they basically tanking for, I would say they tanking for Caleb Williams, but I read an article that says depending on who got the top picks, he might go back to college. She's like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I
money.
Yeah, I think every college player nowadays is saying that, but as good as NIL money is, it ain't the $40 million that he would get as a number 1 overall pick. So there's talking smack, and then there's the reality. Because you go back to USC and the worst scenario happens, then what? So yeah. Everybody, let's just be honest. Everybody knows Caleb Williams is playing his last college football games. So it's a cool threat, but an empty threat. Let's just be real. I definitely think that Dallas San Francisco game is going to have a lot of fantasy implications. The other one I think that's going to be a big one is Kansas City and Minnesota. Again, potential for a lot of scoring because, again, despite the fact that Minnesota's 0-4? Or are they 1-3?
No, they just beat Carolina.
Okay, yeah, they 1-3 now. Kirk Cousins still producing, still throwing a lot of yards, still throwing touchdowns. So I I expect that to be a game that has some good fantasy implication. And then Philadelphia and Los Angeles, Philly versus the Rams, right? Jalen Hurts continuing to establish himself as a quarterback, lots of great offensive weapons. And this since their Super Bowl win a couple of years ago, people act like the Rams have just, fallen off the map, but Matt Stafford is still a high quality quarterback. He's got some younger weapons now who basically have to wear name tags on the front of their jerseys along with their names on the back of their jerseys so he knows who he's throwing the ball to. But he's throwing the ball to them and they're scoring points. So what other game? What's one last game you're looking at this weekend?
Not really from a fantasy standpoint. Not a game that a lot of people probably would pay attention to, but I'm intrigued to just check out the Bengals versus the Cardinals just to see if Joe Burrow can right the ship. Because, the Cardinals have not been great, but they've been competitive in all their games. Can Joe Burrow right the ship? Or is he just really just going to be hot garbage this year? Got the contract.
And Arizona's at home. Arizona's been a tough opponent at home this year. So,
they beat the Cowboys at the house.
Yeah, they have. So it'll be interesting to see how that game shakes out. Well, that's it for this week. We hope everyone has a good week, and we hope you win your matchups. Unless you're facing me, then I just hope you do well enough to lose by a close margin. But I definitely want the victory. Best of luck to everybody in those fantasy matchups this week. Let us know if you have any fantasy questions or start them, sit them, or tell us we're good, tell us we suck. Either way, we're gonna keep doing this thing. So until next time, peace.